The case against is that you use up all your cap space and that you get stuck to who you are. Okay. Part of cap space is how you're going to use it. All right. Raptors re-sign Khem Birch. Cool. There's nobody else that really needs money right now outside of Gary Trent, who's a restricted free agent, and they're going to pay, and they obviously have some kind of understanding of what they're going to do. That's going to leave you the $25-ish million in free agent money to either give to Kyle Lowry or to pivot and try to give to someone else. These are the pending free agents that the Raptors could be looking at this offseason. Number one, Victor Oladipo. He's coming off of a torn tendon in his right quad, and this is just a year of playing basketball removed from coming back from one of the more gruesome leg breaks that we have seen in the league. I don't really see Victor Oladipo as a sure thing. I don't see Victor Oladipo as an upgrade over Kyle Lowry, even though he's 28 years old. Kyle Lowry was plan number one for the Miami Heat going into the trade deadline. Victor Oladipo was priority number two. It's why Victor Oladipo was traded for something like a couple of second-round picks and a Kelly Olynyk contract. His value in this league is just not what it was. It's a lottery ticket, no doubt about it, but it's a pretty expensive lottery ticket that would come with a lot of risk. So Victor Oladipo, that's number one. That's one of the guys that you'd be looking at. Number two, Demar Derozan. He's 32 in August, but he's basically still the same guy when it comes to being a walking bucket. Like, you look across the board at DeMar DeRozan's numbers, and they're almost the exact same. Like, the guy has unchanged as a scorer in the league. But the Raptors have been down that road, and in some ways, you could make the case that that makes more sense because they could use a little bit more scoring, they could use a little bit more wing play, but DeRozan is going to cost you probably north of $20 to $25 million, which is the Kyle Lowry money that you would be acquiring. Do you really believe that over the next 2 seasons at least that DeMar DeRozan is going to be a more valuable player to the Toronto Raptors than Kyle Lowry? No. To me, that seems like a plan B. Number 3, Rashaan Holmes. I actually love this guy. But again, this is going to be a massive overpay. This is free agency. He's a suspect defender. He's got a lot of similar skills to Boucher, who you're going to get to bring back on a very reasonable deal. And the Kings just let Bogdanovich walk. Do you think that they're going to let another guy walk who says that he wants to re-sign? And again, is that a better way to spend your money than on Kyle Lowry? I don't think that's true. Mike Conley's 33. There's no chance. Goran Dragic is 35. There's no chance. Like, in terms of, not that the Raptors wouldn't pivot and get these guys if Kyle leaves, but that these are better ways to spend your money. Tim Hardaway Jr., Dennis Schroeder, they traded Norm Powell, so they're not bringing him back, or at least you would think so. They let Serge Ibaka walk already, and they didn't aggressively pursue Montrezl Harrell when he was a free agent, and he's also going to look to get paid. I don't look at this free agent class in the immediate future and think, wow, there's just a better way that Toronto could allocate their resources, or they could spread some money around and get a bunch of guys and add depth and do this and then all of a sudden be in a better position than bringing back Kyle Lowry, who at times can still play like an all-star. So then we get into the 2022 class. Who's there that you really want to get in 2022 that you think is going to be available? Do you think Kemba Walker is going to opt out? Do you really want Kemba Walker? Are you desperate to go after Gary Harris? Do you think Julius Randle is going to leave the New York Knicks? Do you really want Aaron Gordon? Do you really want to try to pursue Zach LaVine or Terry Rozier? Like, okay, there's cases for all. Those are all good players that I listed, but are you feeling as though you've missed out on something massive if you give Kyle Lowry that money and you are not in the mix for those guys? I don't think so. And then there's the biggest part of all of this, which is, I don't know how many times Raptors fans need to learn this. And again, I don't mean to be strawmanning here because I think it's obvious to many Raptors fans. This is not a free agent destination. This is not a team that does historically well in free agency, nor is free agency that great of a thing when it comes to the NBA. These are the 4 contracts. These are the guys that got the most money in free agency in the pandemic year, okay? Last year when we thought money was flat. Davis Bertans, 5 years, $80 million with the Washington Wizards. Joe Harris, 4 years, $75 million with the Nets. Marcus Morris, 4 years, $64 million with the Clippers. Danilo Gallinari, $61.5 million over 3 years with the Atlanta Hawks. And Jeremy Grant, who probably is the best contract out of all of these, 3 years, $60 million. So $20 million a year for Jeremy Grant coming off of this season. Free agency is a time where you ridiculously overpay guys who generally are good, not great players. It's very, very infrequent where you nail a free agent contract in that range of cash and it actually works out. And primary examples of this would be the Raptors' biggest free agents. They gave Landry Fields $18 million over 3 years. They gave Damari Carroll $58 million over 4 years. They gave Hedo Turkoglu the largest deal in franchise history. They've given Rafer Alston money, Linus Kleza money, even though that one was a bit of a mistake. Where's the time where the Raptors hit on free agents? It's Jason Capono. Was that a good free agent contract? Is that something that you look at, well, you move off Kyle Lowry because you can add what? The guys that they have hit on as free agents have been guys like Bismack Biyombo, who were lottery tickets that took essentially no money. That's what you're looking at with Khem Birch. They hit on Jose Calderon and Jorge Garbajosa, guys who were European players that, again, were lottery tickets that didn't come with a massive, massive price tag. So if you're just looking at Kyle Lowry's money and you're saying, can you really pay a point guard who's 35, going to be 36 years old, $25 million a year? What about the cap space? What about the cap space? The cap space is relevant in a trade, but if you're making a trade, you're not likely including Kyle Lowry. You want to have Kyle Lowry because you're winning. It likely involves Pascal Siakam, if we're being frank, and that's going to be enough money out in just about any deal that you do to make a trade work. So right now, when I look at the landscape of the Kyle Lowry trade, Masai Ujiri's too smart to let somebody walk away for nothing. He's too smart, he and Bobby Webster both, are too smart to let a guy of Kyle Lowry's caliber, a perennial all-star, someone who impacts the game far, far more than just what you see in the raw numbers in a box score, to the culture, to the meaning to the city, to his ability to play on the court, than anything else. And if you have to give him that third year, you have to look at it like the way the Blue Jays did with Russell Martin. And I know that it's different leagues, and I know that there's a salary cap and all of those different things, but that you're giving him a 2-year contract and eating money on the third year because the value in those 2 years is far greater than anything else you're going to do. The Raptors are good enough where they can position themselves to be winners at some point over the next couple of seasons. They're going to add a lottery pick. It could be an incredible lottery pick that could land in the top 4 and change the franchise. You give Kyle Lowry the money. You don't overthink it. You sit down, and if it comes to the third year and you're trying to make it a team option and he balks at it and is willing to go to Miami, you make it a third year and you give it to Kyle Lowry and you say, hey, we're fine with having one of the best point guards in the NBA, one of the best leaders in the NBA, one of the best culture builders in the NBA, on a deal that, frankly, is not much more than what Marcus Morris gets with the Los Angeles Clippers.
Well, one, that's pretty airtight. Like, that's showing your work, and well done. Secondarily, it was hurtful to hear some of those names that you mentioned in Raptors free agency, and then some of the names that they developed and acquired at low cost, and then went on to get paid and were albatross contracts like Bismack Biyombo. They made it Bismack Biyombo. They made him. They were just like, they took the clay and they made it, and it's like, look at this beautiful Bismack Biyombo who's destroying LeBron James in the playoffs. Bismack Biyombo. And then,
that's a bit of a reach, but yeah, okay. Yeah. Destroying LeBron James.
He was destroying him. He was the LeBron stopper. And don't
whatever happened to LeBron after Bismack Biyombo destroyed him?
I don't know. Yeah. Well, apparently the rep is he can't score. That's what he's telling Twitter, at least. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Good stuff, LeBron. No, yeah, that's the thing that's always been said about you. Not one of the greatest scorers of all time. Anyways, stop derailing me. Yeah, Bismack Biyombo is now an untradeable contract because, yeah, he got paid too much and was developed into the guy that deserved to be paid because of his time in Toronto. Cap space is super important when you have a plan like the Raptors did going into this year, where Giannis was a pending free agent. When you organize your entire organization around one superstar franchise-altering player who you believe, even if it's a sub 10% chance, that you had a chance of acquiring, which changes the history of your franchise forever. And that's why Fred VanVleet takes the dip, right? That's what everything they did in the seasons leading up to this one was for the potential free agency of Giannis Antetokounmpo. Didn't happen. Okay, but nothing lost, right? Nothing gained, nothing lost. But that's what you design your team around when it comes to acquiring free agents. there's lots of ways to turn yourself from a middling playoff team, 4, 5, 6 seed, to a championship team. They're not easy.
Not for this team. Not for this team. It's draft and
not
development
in
and
free
trades.
agency, not through
Yeah.
free agency is the point. We saw it. You can get a disgruntled star. Through a trade is probably the best route, or getting lucky in the upcoming draft lottery. Plus, there was the discussion, which needs to be factored in, about Malachi Flynn and whether it's some stunting of his development to bring back another guard who's obviously starting for you alongside Fred VanVleet. I think at this point, we're like, Fred VanVleet, the Malachi Flynn is a nice player. He's a good player and showing flashes at times, and maybe is useful in crunch time if he's really feeling it. But I think it's not the end of the world if that's a nice bench piece for you and never becomes a starter for you. I think he would be outside expectations if he ever became that, and that's fine. There's a guy in the late 20s as a selection in the first round. Let's not get it twisted here. Yeah. So that is out of the equation.